Who am I looking at? You.
We're just talking, mate.
So the cameras are on. So I'm just sitting here with him, no audience. Actually scared.
What for?
I'm in a room by myself with you with a fake tree.
Now, I've got a guest here that I've been waiting 12 months to get on. Rhyce, how you going?
Good, Rat. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. I'm actually very excited because you've been playing hide and seek with me ever since you've journeyed across to the academy and the podcast has started. I've been asking, but I'm very appreciative of your time, mates.
And just before we get
before
we get going, like I know you've built this up for 12 months, whatever. It's actually probably been longer in terms of you wanting to speak to me, but for all the 6 listeners out there, you've done no research, you've done no preparation for this whatsoever. I saw your notebook like 2 minutes ago and there's nothing on it. Like, you must value what I do, honestly.
Well, you're a hard man to catch. So when I walked past you and said, do you have one in you? I needed to jump at the opportunity, mate.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
Don't worry, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've got it in me head.
That's a scary thought.
I've got it in my head. Mate, so take us back to growing up out in Diamond Creek with the famous Raymond Shaw, and the growing up playing footy. I'm sure it was prevalent in your household.
Yep. Yeah, it was interesting times. Like back in the day, like I got a younger sister and a younger brother, obviously, and we were living out in the sticks, and we commuted to school like 20 minutes, half an hour, and back into civilization in the Dymo, where the great Darcy McPherson's from as well. His picture's up on the wall somewhere. Didn't achieve anything at Dymo, but it's up on the wall.
it's there.
But yeah, it was a great time, and in terms of my footy journey, I didn't start until I think I was maybe under 11s or under 12s. I think it was. Not too sure why, but it was a little bit later than most of my mates. But yeah, it was good fun, and I had a really good time, really good upbringing. I was lucky to have obviously my old man played a big part in my footy journey, in my life, as well as my mum. But I was lucky enough to have some really, really good people around me and really good coaches who coached the right way.
And then that took you through the TAC pathway through the Northern Knights, was it, at that stage?
Yeah, so it's actually a bit of a story. Like I played junior footy and I was coming through and I was okay. I wasn't too bad, but I missed all of year 10 and half of year 11 with chronic fatigue syndrome. And so I didn't play any footy. I didn't go to school. I was literally at home the whole time. So that was a bit of a spanner for me in my journey. But it was one of those things that will stick with me forever because of the support of my family and what they did at that time and the sacrifices they made. Like my little sister, she just started year 7 and I'm at home crook as, and she's got to go follow up me teachers and bring my work home and all, just stuff like that. Like it doesn't mean anything like at the time, but right now, like you think about it and go, geez, that was pretty big sacrifices that were made. Like mum was working nights, dad would work during the day, mum would look after me during the day, dad would look after me at night, just stuff like that, mate. A lot of people don't know that stuff, but it's it was a pretty important time in my life. And then I started playing footy again, played in a granny at Dymo in the seniors, which I'm very, very lucky to do that. I probably didn't deserve a game, but got one anyway. Kicked a snag. Would
have been from halfback too.
No, I actually played forward pocket that day. Played forward pocket. And then, just lucky enough to play at Knights and get drafted.
When did it look like you would have been father-son then, right?
Yeah,
obviously. But without that happening, or would you have got drafted, do you reckon, without having to be father-son?
It's a good question. I reckon I was a good chance, but I was told pretty much after the championships that the club was going to take me father-son. So I ended up playing. Back in those days, you play twos a lot of the time. So you got selected like Benny Johnson and Myself, we played. I think Jono played for Carlton a couple of times. Someone else played for Sydney. I generally just played for Collingwood in the back half of the year. Didn't play much TAC, so I think I only played 5 or 7 games.
So what year did you get drafted then? When was that?
99. End of 99. Yeah.
I was...
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, I was 5. Woolen jumpers. It was good.
Woolen jumper. Woolen jumper. First jumper. I think it was.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was. I played in the Millennium game.
That's off its head.
When Fev kicked 12 or 13 or something on Presty, and Mick kept Presty on Fev for the whole game.
So you've seen a fair bit, mate. How has footy changed from when you started? Like, what's the sort of shit you were able to do back then that there's just no chance of players doing now? Like, we spoke a fair bit of alcohol consumed back then.
Yeah. Oh, look. Obviously the game's changed, but like in terms of the whole package, it's a different environment now. Obviously, it's a lot more professional. We were just heading into that stage, I reckon. Like we were full time, but it only just been a couple of years, and it was good times. Like I reckon I was pretty lucky in that respect that there were no phones and all that kind of stuff going on. Social media wasn't a thing. The internet was only just getting going, so I was very lucky. It was really good times.
How do you reflect on your time at Collingwood? Because you obviously got to Sydney, but we've had sporadic chats, and you said the move was great for you. You love Collingwood, but how now, being removed from that for a fair while, how do you? Is there anything you regret, or was it more of a learning period? What are your thoughts?
Look, at the time, I thought Mick was the biggest asshole of all time. I thought, why isn't this bloke playing me? And I'd had a few conversations if you got a mentor, but like my best mate, Benny Johnson, he pulled me in a line or say you got to get going and all this kind of stuff. And looking back on it, I probably didn't listen. That was probably my problem a bit. I was really into myself, I reckon, and my talent and what I could potentially do rather than what I was actually doing. I'd live off instances during games rather than whole games, and that's something that I probably regret a lot. Like I think I got games that I deserved, but also missed a lot of games that were my undoing, I suppose. Like I played a big part in not playing a lot of footy, and at Collingwood, I think I ended up playing 94 games in 9 years there. So there's a lot of games missing. Booger Johnson played 200 and something games, and he was and him and Fraze and Leon Davis played a lot of footy, but they deserved to play a lot of footy because they performed. Whereas I was a bit up and down, mainly down.
So with that now, obviously with your coaching hat on now as well, we'll get to that a bit later, but what are some of the things that you're able to reflect on now that you mentioned instances where habits, like what are we talking? Like what was getting in the way?
Yeah, so look, I called Mick an arsehole before, but like he's obviously one of the great coaches, and he was right in the decisions he made, and looking back on it, as I said, I played a big part in those decisions, and even at the time I didn't agree with them, but looking back on it, it was right, and I wasn't performing. I wasn't playing my part, taking my moments. I wasn't consistent on the field or off the field, and I was pretty lucky when I look back at it to play those 94 games, I reckon.
Were you a part of the Rat Pack? Were you at the Pies, or had you just missed them? Or were they forming? Was it bubbling?
Yeah, I was probably a low-key member of it.
Cameo?
Yeah, as you know me, I'm pretty introverted type of guy, and I like to keep to myself and very private. But yeah, we had some fun back then, and we had a great bunch of blokes, and we had a great team. We had some really good leaders at that stage, like Burnsy and Bucks and Jimmy Clement and those type of guys, and then Anthony Rocker and that coming through. And then we had those younger guys that we all came up together, like Dids and Swanee and Days and Pendles. We all like kind of grew together, and then I got shafted, but that happens. But yeah, it was a good group. We enjoyed ourselves off the field, but I tell you what, we bloody worked hard on the field, and Mick made sure of that, and I think that's why Mick was so successful in his coaching.
You mentioned Bucks, Pendles. With your involvement now in the recent past with AFL lists coaching, how do you think leadership has changed from back then? Like I've seen bits of it where it was a bit more direct.
Yeah.
From when I first started to now, it's a bit more coddling. There's a lot around psych safety. How do you reckon that's changed since you've been involved in footy?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic at the moment because there's obviously a shift in the way we go about it. You know me, I'm a little bit old school, but understanding that the demographics coming through are different. The kids are different, and so you've got to treat them different, and you've got to try and get the message across in a way that they will be receptive to. But also, I try and stay true to myself and my values and what I expect from players and people. And if that's not being lived up to, then I've got to make a decision on how I go about that. And I think that's the art of coaching at the moment, because you want to go in a direction, but you've also got these restraints essentially on how you go about it. And I think that's kind of cool. It's like it is a balancing act, and it's an art form, and some do it better than others. And I think that's what keeps me in the game, I suppose. Yeah.
Now we go to Sydney.
Yep.
How did that come about? Was that self-driven? You mentioned getting the arse before, but did you really get the arse, or was it more so you seeking opportunity elsewhere? As you've mentioned, wasn't working, 90 in 9 years.
Yeah.
How did it all go down?
Yeah, it's funny. I can't actually remember, but I think after 9 years and doing what I was doing, like it's probably time to move on. I think I'd stuffed up a little bit in my last year off the field, and it probably came to a head, and I think it was best for both sides in reality. And I remember getting the call from Maxi Kleiman, who was my manager at the time, and me and Jono and Dids were over in Bali, and we were asleep. It was pretty early, I think it was, and got the phone call, and Bruzy gave me a buzz saying I'd been traded to Sydney, and that was it, really. And I just told Jono and Dids, and that was it.
One last hurrah in Bali.
In Bali, yeah.
We may as well get after it, boys.
I don't think I remember anything after that.
Because I'll be with Barry Hall next year on this trip.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, mate, it seems like it was needed. So how many games did you play for the Swannies?
It's a good question. I think it was 140 odd, I reckon. I was there for 7 years as a player, and it was just it's like the environment at Collingwood was amazing. I didn't maximise that. Going to Sydney and having that reality check of you got 1 year to prove yourself, mate. Like,
you went on one.
Get going. Well, I think I only had 1 year left on my contract. I had 1 year left at Collingwood, and Sydney took that up. I think maybe I got another year. I don't know, but essentially you got 1 year to prove yourself. And just going into that environment, and you're seeing Leo Barry, Craig Bolton, Brett Kirk, Barry Hall, Mickey O, Goodsy. I probably missed a couple. Jude, it's just an environment that if you don't line up, you're out, and that you've heard of probably the no dickhead policy, and it was the best thing for me, like the best environment for me to go into, and I knew that I had to make the most of this opportunity going into it, but then being in the environment for only a short period, I knew I really had to make the most of this because they'd spit me out, and so they should if I didn't shape up.
So what are some of the things that changed, you reckon?
The big things, like my habits around actually being a professional footballer and taking my career and my life serious and really zeroing in on what I could do on a football field. And yes, I still enjoy myself off the field because I love that part of it. I love being part of a group. I love being around the boys and that camaraderie and banter and stuff. But when it was time to train, once I got on that grass, it was full ball and it turned out pretty well.
So that links into Blood's culture that they mentioned. So your time at Sydney, with what you were just speaking about, is that the incorporation of it? Like you work hard. It's obviously been something that's been instilled within the four walls for a long time. Is that more what it's based about, or is there anything more you can touch on that? Because it's something that we hear quite regularly.
Yeah. I think it probably boils down to responsibility and accountability, essentially. Like that's what it is. And the expectation around that. And you can see now, like, Horse is an unbelievable coach. He drives excellence. He drives expectation. He drives standards, and he doesn't accept anything less. And that's why they've been so successful for. I don't even know how long he's been there. Like he took over maybe a year or two into my term there, and to answer your question, I think it's just that, right? Like they're held accountable. You've got responsibility when you enter that football club, and there's expectation around that. Like success is a part of the fabric, and that's
And you did experience success there, being an integral part of a premiership side. What's it like to, well, one, win a flag, mate, but also being a highly contributing member of that team that year?
I liked the word integral. That was
integral.
That's flattering.
Integral.
Look, it was like we're a fantastic team. Like we had guys that just played roles. Like there was some superstars in it, but even they sacrificed and were selfless in their contribution to the team, and that was it was a really cool experience the whole year. Horse took over the year before, I think, and I think we made finals. Maybe went out early, but I think like in my mind, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but in my mind, I knew there was something going on in pre-season before that year. Like we were humming, we were together, and we wanted to sacrifice and work for each other. And if it was someone's turn, it was their turn, and we just got around them. And I think that was the mark of that team. It was, and you saw on grand final day, like the roller coaster of the game. It was like we were up, and then Hawks flying back, and then we're up again, and then Hawks come back, and the momentum swings were just huge. But there were some really telling moments. I remember Dan Hanbury taking that mark. I was about 20 metres away. I'm like, there's no way we're going to lose this granny after that. We can't let that bloke down after doing that in that moment. So just stuff like that. And even Mummy, like doing his hammy on the Thursday, running out there, big dum-dum. But like, he's someone that if you're getting tagged, if someone was getting stuck near Mummy, and he'd go whack him or make it hard for him for the next 2 quarters or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, just stuff like that was just, culminated in a fantastic day.
And there's one of my favourite clips going around of all time that the emotion may have got the better of you when you received your medal. What did you yell out?
The old neck minute. You made me say that. You made me say that.
Why?
Oh, well, my former roommate, Craig Bird, like ripping fella, like one of the greats, Birdie, nicknamed Gout Boy. He was, we were stuffing around. It was the time of that, the neck minute bloke, and
Actually got a few similarities, you and him.
yeah, probably. But he's just whispered it. You won't do it, and I was first up, so like, take the mic. See you later, Craig Willis. I think after that we were cooked. I reckon. I don't think anyone really got up, could grab it. So,
Mate, so in those descriptions, Pies and Sydney, you played, named some superstars, played with some superstars.
yeah.
Any of them stand out? Like when you're out there playing with them, just like he's on another level, or what they do throughout the week. Who have you got?
Yeah, look, it's I can't. There's no real surprises, but like Bucks was an unbelievable player, and he worked hard. He was super professional. Did everything he possibly could to be the best, and he was just determined to be that, and like you could see that in him, and you could see that the way he played. Like he's one of the best, one of the greatest of all time. Like Goodsy, Goodsy's probably my favourite, just because of his natural ability, and his knowledge of the game. It's like, and I don't want to make comparisons because I'm not here to make comparisons, but he's standing right there, staring at like LeBron. They talk about LeBron knowing the game so well and thinking the game. Like Goodsy was like that, and then his ability to turn the game and play centre half back, play ruck, play centre half forward, play full forward, play ruck rover, do whatever. He could do it all, and he was just unbelievable to like see on the ground. But the guy that I was lucky enough to play with, like Bud, like what do you say? You know, like he's a guy that can literally win a game by himself. I think I remember we're going like bustards against Freo at the SCG, and I don't even know. I might be making this up, but I just remember him just kicking snags like in the third quarter just for fun. And I reckon he might have kicked maybe 4, 5 or 6 in the second half. And we won the game, and it was because of Bud. And I remember him just saying, like, I reckon he said to a couple of us, maybe me and Marty, Matt and I, as we were walking out at quarter time, just if you see me, just kick it to me. Like, stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Come on.
It's Bud. Like, so you're doing it.
Yeah.
Even if it's a 10-metre kick, you just kick it to him. But he was just next level, mate. Like, his field kicking was some of the best I've seen. Like, unbelievable trainer.
There's not many of us.
Don't know if he enjoyed the weights room too much, but I tell you what, he trained hard. And yeah, those three guys are probably the absolute standouts. Like, and yeah, they're pretty obvious.
Yeah. When did coaching become a thing, mate? So was that a straight away transition, straight into it?
Yeah, I finished in 2015, and then straight into I coached the twos for a couple of years, and then did the backs for a year. So
at Sydney?
Yep.
And on that, you mentioned 2015. Was that just too many Ks in the legs? You were just over it?
Yeah, I did my knee in 2013. I had that Lars surgery, and that was like I did it in round 22. And with the Lars, you can come straight back. And the last 2 years, I think I played nearly every game. I wouldn't have missed many. And yeah, I'm very lucky. But yeah, it just become time. And I remember talking to Horse after 2014, we got done in the granny and got smacked by the Hawks. That we'd play another year, like Goodsy as well. I think Pikey might have played another year as well. And then 15, it was a really hard slog, and I think we went out in straight sets. I think North beat us actually. Kane Turner tagged me in the final. Little bastard did a good job too. I didn't touch it. But yeah, that was it. It was the right time. It was the right time. I was playing pretty good footy, still in the team, and done.
And then, so VFL coach into
Neefel
back then, sorry, mate, into line coach at Sydney.
Yeah, 2 years Neefel coach.
Yep.
Which I really enjoyed under Johnny Blakey. He was our director of coaching at the time.
Lizard Senior.
Yeah, Lizard Senior. Me and Nicky Davis, just doing the twos together, just two of us. And with Clutch, big Clutchy. Everyone knows Clutch. It was good fun. I learned a lot. Blake's is one of the great men, one of the great footy people. And he was a fantastic mentor.
So you've been assistant to Horse, and also then from Sydney you went to North as a head assistant?
Yeah, so we made the decision to go back. Real family decision. It was hard because I'd been up in Sydney for 10 years and loved every minute of it, but just needed to get back home. So I was lucky enough to get a gig. I actually think Drummo came up here and I took his job at North at the time under Scotty. So, yeah, it was good. It was good fun being an assistant for 6 months and straight to the top gig.
What'd you, whilst being assistant from those two highly respected coaches within the industry, what'd you learn as a coach?
Yeah, well, as I touched on before, Horse's expectation around standards and effort and how the game is meant to be played, and he's uncompromising in that. And I learned a lot, probably reflecting on that now. I probably should have learned a bit more then, but I learn a lot reflecting on that now. And then under Scotty, like I know it only lasted a short time, but like he's just unbelievable footy mind. Like I haven't been under Chris, but Brad's his football brain is probably unmatched really in the way he sees the game and the way he talks about the game and how he controls the team. It was really cool to watch for, even though it was a short period.
And then it takes us into what's a whirlwind of an 18 months for you, mate. So you just mentioned, and then you got the head role for the back end of your first season there.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you reckon you were the one that was going to be next if that happened?
Yeah, well, no. And it's funny, like Cameron Joyce is up here now coaching the W, and he was the footy manager at the time. And obviously there was a lot going on at North behind the scenes. And with Scotty leaving, we had Darren Crocker and Lee Tudor as assistants as well, and both fantastic footy people, great coaches, a lot of experience. And when I heard Scotty was leaving, I just assumed one of those guys who would get it, and I didn't really think too much of it. But then got a phone call late one night, and Joyce was coming round, and that was it. Like you're stepping in, and it was interesting times.
And then from my recollection of the scenario going forward, the players really wanted you as coach for the next year. They all loved you. That's from an outsider looking in. Were you a player-appointed coach, do you think, next year?
It's a good question. I think it's an interesting dynamic when you're in that interim role, and you can see it now with, like you saw it with Scully a little bit this year. It's a change. It's a big change. Like Simo, unbelievable coach. Like, haven't spoken to him a couple of times and seen the way he worked and the way that whole club operated. Unbelievable coach, right? Scotty, been there a long time. Unbelievable coach. I think, like, when a new face comes in, some new ideas, a fresh outlook on things, it can influence the playing group, and obviously they want more, but I don't know whether the players wanted me or not. All I know is that I tried my best to allow them to be as successful as they possibly could, especially in that interim period. And we had some success. Then I got ahead of myself against Geelong. We played Geelong down there. We need to win our last two games to play in the finals. which would have been unbelievable, and the boys deserved it. They were unbelievable throughout the year. And then I got ahead of myself and changed everything down at Geelong. We were playing Geelong at Geelong. We need to do this, this, and this. I think we kicked 15 points for the game. We lost. It was a bit wet weather. And talk about feedback. The game gives you feedback every day. and that gave me a lot of feedback. And it was a great experience. Like I don't regret any part of it because I learnt so much. That result was my fault. And it's cool. Like I learnt from it. And then went back to our ways the week after and we played Port at Marvel and said to the boys, let's just get back to business. Let's do what we do, take the game on, try and defend really strongly. And I think the boys went out and won by maybe 80 points, beat Port and maybe I think put a dent in their finals. I can't remember. It was such a long time ago, but it was a great learning curve for me. Like it was essentially just shut up and let the boys play. Stop getting in the way. And I got in the way and we got smacked.
Oh, and then it takes us into that off season there where North are going through appointing a new head coach.
Yeah.
With having done the interim role, did you think you were a chance?
Yeah, well, I actually got appointed with a few games to go.
Beautiful.
Like, obviously, you've done your research, right? So
yeah.
that's
I told you, mate, I needed to grab you out of your chair and just pull you. I'm telling you.
No, I got appointed with maybe 4 games to go. So, it was good. It was a relief for me. Knew what was going on, but also the pressure rises. There's expectation on you now. Coaching a fantastic club with a great history. You got some responsibility. So yeah, heading into that pre-season, it was excitement, but there's also there's a lot of work to do.
And then, mate, bang, COVID hits 2020, so your first year.
Yeah.
How'd you navigate that shit sandwich, right? You've got all this stuff in place. We don't know what it's going to look like. We all got one game out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, righto, tools down.
Yeah.
With someone who I feel like craves connection, and you said you love the club aspect of it when everyone's all dispersed, especially in Victoria where I was lucky enough not to be there by the sounds of it. How'd you navigate that being the head honcho?
Yeah, it was bloody hard, mate. Like, and I think I don't know whether we could have done it any better. I don't know. All I know is that we tried our absolute best to give ourselves the best opportunity to play good footy. We were actually on top of the ladder, I think, or equal top after 2 games. And I'm not joking. We were...
Oh, that's good, mate.
We'd had a ripping pre-season. Like we'd actually trained really hard. The boys were up and about. We were really looking forward to it. And I think we won our first game. We might have been 40 points down, 35 points down against St Kilda at Marvel. And we won. Then we had to fly to Sydney for Giants game. I don't even know what happened, mate. Round 2, was that 8 weeks later, or was that?
Yeah, might have even been longer.
Yeah, like whatever. All I know is we had to fly in, fly out. So we had to get it to Arden Street at 5 o'clock in the morning, get a bus to the airport, catch a plane at Sydney, drive out to Olympic Park, play the Giants. We won that game, and then like the season's just like all over the shop. So
what was your record that year?
I think we won 3 games, mate. I think we won our first 2.
Yeah, that next one, you beat Adelaide up here in my last game for the Crows, I reckon it was.
Really?
Yeah, Marnes kicked 3 on me.
Did he?
Oh,
great man.
Played you back into form.
Great. But we I don't want to joke about it, but that was, and as you know, mate, that was a hard time. Like for everyone in the whole industry, that was just an amazing shitstorm for everyone. People are losing jobs. People are taking massive pay cuts. People are travelling to hubs and not seeing their families for 90 days. Just I don't think the enormity of the situation can really be felt unless we're in that. And it's something that I reflect on a little bit, but it was just huge for everyone. It was just like, I reckon I was one of the lucky ones. There was some people who just did it so hard, and I think the industry's done a really good job to get back on its feet and to where we are today.
And you, mate, you're damn right. You mentioned people losing their jobs. You're unfortunate to find your way out at the end of that year. How did that come about? Were there inklings of that throughout that season? How, it's not a position that you want to be in, but can you give people some insight how, when you're in that hot seat, how it actually comes about throughout a season like that?
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it, but in simple form, it was a very tough year. It was a very tough year for me personally, and it was a very tough year for the club. And in the end, I think the right decision was made. But it took a toll. It took a toll on me. It took a toll on me and my family, and you know how close I am with my family. And it's just one of those circumstances that it's a tough one. I loved the job. I was addicted to the job. Whether that helped me or not, I don't know. But I could have done it a lot better. But I know at the time I was trying my best, and I think that's what I can kind of rest on a little bit. In the end, the circumstances are what they are, and I am where I am today. But it was, I love those boys. I love the staff. I love the club, and I tried my best to provide them with a direction and opportunity to go forward as a club, and we just didn't get there in the end, and that's life, I suppose.
You mentioned it being quite tough.
You asked the hard questions, mate.
Oh, it's well, mate. I was just
actually not bad at this.
I was actually going to ask you then. Well, you mentioned it being a hard time. Where'd you go mentally after all that, mate? We're pretty close. We've had some chats. Whatever you're willing to share. It's obviously very hard on you, mate.
Yeah. Had me battles, Rat. It was tough, and I think looking back on it, it was I didn't quite understand at the time, but having reflected and spoken to Leah and the family, one of the greats, the enormity of the situation was kind of lost to me a little bit, and in terms of me personally, and I'm very lucky that I got the support of my family and friends, and I was able to get back on my feet and get going again, and I'll be forever grateful to Dewey to get me up here and help me move on and get my life back together.
Mate, and on that, moving on, I'll never forget when we all got the email here that you'd been appointed. Never met you. We're all running a lap. You couldn't touch base with us yet, and you're on the far side in a ute. You say you're addicted to the job or football. You're on the far side, sitting in the back of your Ford Ranger. Yeah. Only met probably 3 or 4 of the boys, just giving us a wave. Get to training, you blokes.
Yeah. It was good times. It was good. I don't know why I was doing that. Was that?
I don't think you were allowed. We might have been in some sort of restrictions, and you weren't in the.
That's right.
In the 4 walls yet.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a bit right. Or I was trying to milk it a little bit to get to the start of the season.
We'll get into the academy in a second, what you're doing now. But now that you're in the academy, is it do you have, and having a taste of the head role, do you have any regrets? Is there anything you'd change?
Oh, there's a few things I'd change. I don't regret it, because at the time you're
ready for it.
You're ready. I feel as though I had a lot of knowledge, and I knew what I wanted to achieve. I think what I would have changed is just being a bit more patient. Maybe I thought I was ready, but experience counts for a lot, I reckon. And I think I probably just didn't have the experience day to day that I thought I had. And like when you see Horse, right, like Horse had done, I don't know, he'd done player management. He was head of the AFL Coaches Association. He'd done 9-10 years assistant coaching at Sydney. You know, like there's experience. Like he'd been through it all. Whereas I'd done 2 years as NEAFL coach and 18 months as a line coach. So yeah, I just think, and I talk to like our coaches and people around. Like you only gain experience from experience, and that takes time. And people don't realise that you've actually got time. Everyone's impatient. Everyone wants to get where they want to get to, like as quick as they possibly can. But in our position, there's a lot of craft and understanding that you don't understand yet. And I think for me, that's something that I probably would have waited a little bit longer because I hadn't had the experience. And I think that's something that people, especially our coaches, our young coaches, just gain the experience. When you're ready, you'll kind of know, like, because you've done the yards, you've said no a couple of times, and then you get to a point where, okay, now's the time to take the step, not bang. Sometimes it works though.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it works, and I don't want to say that you shouldn't do that, but from my experience, like experience does count.
And where have you found yourself now? You want to touch on what you're doing or what you can touch on? I know you're cooking up a few things in the background.
Nah. Look,
where are you at?
Yeah, I'm the coaching director at the academy at the moment, and that's like I've really enjoyed it. It's been a real change for me. Like going from the high end, high expectation, high pressure, day to day, like let's go, to a long term outlook on development and how we maximise the potential of our kids from 13 to 18. So it's a lot different. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the process, and I've learnt a shitload like throughout the whole year, and I've gained a lot more experience, as I said before.
What are some of the things that go into the academy? Because it gets mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
This big, broad academy that the Gold Coast Suns have. Are there any minor details you can touch on with just how much work actually goes in to the final product, being last year we drafted 4 guys in the pretty well first round?
Yeah, like it's a beast, mate. Like I didn't actually know until I stepped in that like how big it was. We've got 4 hubs up in North Queensland. So we've got Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, Rockhampton, Capricornia. And then we've got our Gold Coast hubs. So we've got the North, South and Northern Rivers. And that's just our hub programs. And they're 13, 14, 15. North Queensland go all the way up to 17. And then we've got our, as of this year, we've got our 13s, 14s, 15s emerging talent programs. We've got our 16, and that's boys and girls. We've got 16s, boys and girls. We've got 18s, boys and girls. So it's massive. It's a massive beast. It's a lot of people, a lot of volunteers who work in it that do a great job. And we wouldn't be where we are without those people. We've got great full-time staff that do a great job in facilitating this whole thing, and driving it to get better each and every day. And it's pretty big.
With a clear outline pathway now up here in, we'll just touch on even southeast Queensland. Do you notice more juniors picking up the game because there's a pathway that they can see?
Yeah, I think so. Like participation numbers are up, but even with my 2 boys, like even in Louis' team, he's doing under 8s or whatever it is. I don't even know, but there's like 8 teams of under 8s. You know, like at Broady, it's not ridiculous. And I know Jace Cloak is doing the 13s at Broady, and he's got like 90 kids. So it's massive. The game's growing, and and we're trying to keep up. But obviously, there's more talent coming through. There's a lot of talented youngsters on the coast and in Queensland, and we're trying to get them to play Aussie rules.
Mate, that's all I've got for you. I'll let you get back
Is that
to that.
it?
Well, mate, you said you needed to be out of here with that
6 minutes.
Yeah, with that packed
6 minutes late.
that packed academy schedule, mate.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing in some personal stuff too, mate.
No
So
worries.
I really appreciate your time.
No, I hope the 6 listeners get a bit out of this, mate.
You're a good work, mate.
No worries.
Appreciate it. Very well.